Hi, good morning, everybody. I've got an incredible panel here this morning. The topic that we have is, I think, the most important topic at the summit. I think everywhere I've spoken or everywhere I've been, it all revolves around this critical topic around AI-driven strategies for workforce and economic growth. And I think the reason this topic is super important is the fact that if you are a government official anywhere in the world, I think this is their biggest concern, is that how is AI going to impact society? How is AI going to impact workforce? How is AI going to impact industries? So that's going to be the most, it's the most important topic, so appreciate everybody who's out here. My name is Tejpreet Chopra, and I'm the founder and CEO of Industry.ai. So we are an AI company that focuses on driving productivity, safety across manufacturing plants. This is a topic that's deeply passionate for me because I live and breathe this every day, because we are trying to really do this, is that how do you create the digital workforce, or how do you empower the workforce across industries? A quick introduction of my colleagues on the call. We have Mr. Satvinder Singh from the ASEAN. Mr. Narendra Sen from Neev Cloud should be joining us any minute. Mr. Vinod Jawar, who's really the key in Nextra, which is part of Airtel. Dr. Nihar Shah, who's one of the best in the healthcare space, and Dr. Mahindra Karpan, who's a presidential advisor to Guyana. So welcome, everybody. Just one other key point, I'd just sort of say, just to put it in context. In India, we have 70 million MSMEs. These MSMEs employ 230 million people. The MSME market in India produces 30% of India's GDP and 50% of exports. And the other big critical thing is, how do we bring AI for all? How do we bring AI for all these companies that can't afford what normally large companies do? And that's the big challenge in front of us, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So in order to really kick this off, what I'd like to do is first really talk about three critical elements in today's discussion. Is that how do we redesign our workforce strategies given this new technology that's coming up? How do we build the digital and compute infrastructure? And I'll request Vinod to talk about that. And how do we really ensure that economic growth driven by AI remains inclusive, responsible, and sustainable? So with that, I'm going to request Satvinder, if you don't mind kicking it off. And it would be good to understand from your perspective, how is the Digital Economy Framework Agreement going to help governments around the world navigate the opportunities that exist? Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chopra. Very good afternoon to all of you. Great to be here with all of you. I think all of us are enjoying this momentous impact event, and it's a great place to be here, sharing ideas. And I'm here specifically, Mr. Chopra, if I don't mind, I'm giving the perspective of the ASEAN. If some of you may not know, ASEAN is next door to India. Today we are the fifth largest economic bloc, 700 million people, most of it middle and upper middle income economies who are part of ASEAN. And with India, of course, we are deeply connected. We have a free trade agreement, and we also have very strong trade economic ties with India. And we have a lot of cooperation going on with India, including in the area of digital connectivity. Mr. Chopra talked about the Digital Economic Framework Agreement. Let me just update you. What is that? In short, we call it DEFA. DEFA is a digital agreement. We are now negotiating, in the midst of completing negotiations by March of this year. Last 2 years, we've been negotiating it. It's the largest regional digital agreement in the world. The only difference is it's also legally binding. So we are actually negotiating with the 11 countries of ASEAN to come on board, 700 million people, to be digitally interconnected, interoperable, so that we can do business better and so that we can grow our economies better. Now, the essence of DEFA came about post-COVID. I think in COVID, like in India, in ASEAN too, it really changed us. I think while COVID was not good for anyone, but COVID also had positive unintended consequence. We saw the greatest transformation taking place in the way we live, work, and play. And that interpreted clearly into growth that took place post-COVID. I think the leaders in my region saw the prospects, and they also saw the numbers where huge chunk of economic growth is driven by digital. And therefore, there's a no regret move now to move the entire region into digital connectivity and that's where the DEFA comes through. I think the interesting thing in ASEAN, I mean, well, India is one country. In ASEAN, like I say, there are 11 countries. We have LDCs there, least developed countries like Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, and now Timor-Leste just join us. And then we have advanced economies like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, who is like a middle income economies. So it's a mixed bag of economies, but the momentum of getting all of them together to do this, we were able to move the agenda because we were able to show very quickly through data that the biggest beneficiaries actually of the DEFA is not even advanced economies like Singapore, because they are already there, digitally connected, but actually are the LDCs. We were able to show that the impact of DEFA will be greatest in terms of jobs, prospects, economic growth, because they are really economies which are least developed, but they are going to be moving into the latest of all kind of connectivity at the lowest cost. And they will be the ones who will be able to benefit on a per capita basis in a maximum way. So that is how we were able to get 700 million people from 11 countries sitting on a common agenda of being integrated, because we were able to show them the money. If you don't show them the money, nobody is going to jump in and do any such agreement. Money here means jobs, economic growth, right? Deeper depth in terms of growth of the people and communities. So DEFA, for example, if we already, ASEAN is a very vibrant digital economy. Roughly is about 300 billion today, and we are going to be moving to $1 trillion in size by 2030 in the next couple of years. But with DEFA, the numbers are showing that the region is going to double the size of digital economy. So I think this is where we are in terms of our ability to come together to be able to do business. And our idea is, of course, not to stop in ASEAN. The idea is that once DEFA is going to be in place, we want to be connecting to India, right? Economy to economy. I think this will really be fantastic. I think we can stop looking over the shoulder. I mean, basically Global South, India, Southeast Asia, there's plenty of markets. Demography is on our side. In fact, even the affinity of our people in wanting to embrace technology is on our side. And in fact, some of the studies that are showing that actually it is economies like Southeast Asia and ASEAN as well as India is where people are seeing the translation of the use of AI in the most profitable way. The data is showing that it's not in the West, it's actually in our region, where businesses are beginning to deploy small AI into their day-to-day business and making a big impact on productivity, on growth, and also in relevance. I'll stop there, Chopra, and maybe I'll come back later.
No, Satvinder, you're absolutely right, because I think in our part of the world, I tell everybody that India is trying to lead and be the bridge between the advanced economies and the emerging economies. But I think the dynamics of technologies needed for our kind of part of the world is very, very different from the West. So I think if we can get a good price point to provide these technologies, that'll be great. Dr. Karpan, you're an interventional cardiologist, and you're advising a lot of governments around the world. Would be great to get your perspective in terms of how you see AI and its impact in terms of transforming public health care. Now, Dr. Karpan, I was at a discussion, was it 2 days ago, with Vinod Khosla, and he always says some really provocative things. And one of the things he said was that in a few years from now, AI, we won't need doctors in the world. And I know Elon Musk said we won't even need surgeons in the world.
We don't need neurosurgeons.
So you don't need. So would be you're the actual real person who does all this stuff. So
Thank you.
Would be good to get your perspective.
Thank you very much for having me here. And I bring you greetings from our President, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, and Vice President, Dr. Bharat Jagdeo. We are from a small country located in South America, just a population of 850,000 people. I believe on the way here I might have encountered 850,000 people on the road. So you can imagine the scale that we are dealing with. What is transformative about Guyana at this time in our history is that sometime 2015 we discovered oil offshore. And you know that everything that comes with that transformative discovery. The oil and gas industry is now booming. And we're trying to learn all of the lessons from states that have walked this path before. Those that have relied heavily only on oil and gas they have encountered tremendous difficulties that we are hoping to avoid. So one of the things, or a couple of the things that we are using these resources to do is to help us with our healthcare, our agriculture, and our digital transformation in the public service. One of the other important things about Guyana is that we have majority of our population living on the coastal area, and most of the rest of the country is forest. So we actually are pioneers in selling carbon credits to the world. The sad and vulnerable part of this, however, is that the coastal area is under sea level. So using AI, predictive models, all of those things, it's a survival tool for us, not just now, but for future generations. In recent times, we have been fortunate to have visionary leadership to take us in the direction we'd like to go. And we have in our country several remote villages of indigenous populations. And I'll share an example, a personal example, when I was more in hospital practice. There was a 18-year-old boy had to be flown out from an interior village by the military helicopter after a snake bite. And when he came to the city, it was the first time that he saw headlights on a car. That's where we still are in some places. So we have been able in recent times to use our resources to establish telemedicine in particular areas. We have now over 200 functional sites that can actually serve these remote communities. They can do simple things like EKGs, X-rays, blood pressure, blood sugar, all of the common things, and respond to trauma, etc. So a healthcare worker, not necessarily a doctor, a community health worker, somebody indigenous to that area, can assess these patients. They go on video conferencing, and all 200 of these locations actually have Starlink, or we're trying to implement that now, so that they have connectivity. So the specialists on the coast and in larger centers actually can give real-time diagnosis, real-time advice. I myself in the cardiac unit, my on-call team always will be able to review an EKG. Like in India, I suppose, our number one cause of mortality is still cardiovascular disease. Heart attack is a huge problem in our population. Historically, some of you may be familiar with the facts that most of our population at one time were indentured immigrants that left India, and the majority never returned. And they built homes and created generations of descendants from then in Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname, in that entire region. So whatever is plaguing you in India from a healthcare perspective, it's the same thing that was transferred, because we maintain the same lifestyle, we have the same foods, the same likes, the same dislikes, the same genetic predispositions. So in our context, what we have been doing is to start at the basic primary level, because that's where we are. We're not yet at the Singapore level and the others, but we're hoping to get there in a very rapid leapfrog type of strategy. So we're using AI at this time to do primary health care, for inventory management, for surveillance, and we're moving into areas like agriculture for soil management, food production, etc., and to help us in all aspects. So for those of you who are looking for opportunities, where there are challenges, there's always opportunity. So Guyana presents to you tremendous opportunity for investment, for development, and for long-term, multi-generational, sustainable involvement in our country. And I'm sure, and I bring you this message on behalf of the President, we welcome investors to Guyana.
Dr. Carpen, thanks so much for that. I completely agree, because I think the world is going to face exactly the same challenges, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in agriculture, And I think there's a lot of cross-sharing that we can actually learn from. Nihar, I'm going to pull you in, right? So just for everybody's benefit, Nihar is with the Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, which is really one of the leading public research institutes in the world. But Nihar, I just want to share with you about 4 or 5 weeks ago, there was a Majlis in ADNOC in Abu Dhabi, and they had 100 CEOs in a room on a Sunday, and everybody in the world showed up. And there were 4 groups of people: every major CEO of every major oil and gas company in the world, the CEOs of every major energy utility in the world, the CEOs of every AI company in the world, and the CEOs of every large capital provider in the world. And I was trying to figure out myself, well, what's the connect? And at the end of the day, what came out was that the world will need 4 times more energy in the next 10, 12 years to support the growth of data centers and all the other things that are going to happen. And that's going to require $4 trillion every year for the next 10 years. So Nihar, with those numbers, would love to get your perspective on from a technology perspective and how should the world react to that kind of growth that's needed.
Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Nihar Shah, and I work at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. It's one of the 17 Department of Energy national labs. If you all saw Oppenheimer, you might know, where the national labs came from. And of course, we have a very distinguished history with a lot of Nobel Prizes. I won't bore you with all of that. But I'm very grateful, first of all, to CII for this opportunity to speak. And with respect to the question, obviously, energy is one of the things that I think I go to bed every night, I wake up every morning thinking about energy, being one of the energy labs of the United States. Now, one of the other things that is also probably not as well known, I direct the global cooling program at Berkeley Lab. And another blind spot with respect to you mentioned energy, you mentioned the huge growth, you mentioned the huge investment needed. Another thing that's needed is going to be cooling. And that's another blind spot that I think we don't really pay attention to. So that gathering of CEOs, I hope that there was also a gathering of HVAC and data center CEOs. And then in addition, I think one more thing that we will probably need to think through in countries like India is the water consumption. So you think about these kinds of things. So we need to really think about this in a holistic sense. And then in the bigger picture thing, I think some of these things, of course, AI, we are at the intersection of so many different things. But if somebody tells you that they know exactly what's going to happen in 3 years or 5 years or 7 years, they're selling you something. So you might want to take a second look at that. I'll say a couple of other things, right, related to this. You mentioned Vinod Khosla. Just a month ago, I was in Silicon Valley. Berkeley Lab is based in Silicon Valley. And Mr. Khosla was giving a keynote there. And he said, as usual, he said some very provocative things. One of the things he said was, by 2030, everything that needs human expertise will be free or nearly free. Second thing he said was, everything that needs labor is going to be, and this is coming to our topic here, is going to be also very nearly free. The thing that I disagree with Mr. Khosla about is that, again, I mentioned the energy blind spot and the cooling blind spot. So really, I think some of these things are going to be infrastructure bottlenecks, which I think some of our co-panelists are going to be able to address. And then also, I think along with that, there's probably also going to be a talent bottleneck. And when I say talent bottleneck, I don't mean talent across the board. I think it's going to be particular kinds of talent that we're going to need. Just today, you might have heard the US and India signed, or India formally joined this Pax Silica initiative by the United States. Pax Silica is an initiative about the whole AI supply chain. So now we're talking about not just kind of compute and not just the infrastructure, but we're also talking about the whole supply chain that will allow that to happen, and that's an initiative that the US government has started. So there's a range of different things we could talk about. The workforce dimension, of course, super important, and of course I can come back to any of those things. I'll mention one last thing. Berkeley Lab, the Energy Act of 2020. Berkeley Lab requires Berkeley Lab to essentially report to the U.S. Congress, on like data center growth, and they found that over the last, I would say, last decade, data center growth has tripled. So again, some of these numbers bear out even if you look at history, and the forecast is that it will by 2028 triple again. So these things are again not very well known. But I do think that that these blind spots need to be addressed by all of us and all of y'all. And we're at a very interesting point with the, I could say, industrial revolution. So let's see what we can do together. Thanks.
No, thanks for that, Nir. I think you're absolutely right. I think the people are underestimating the challenges of developing all this infrastructure, whether it's in terms of cooling, whether it's in terms of power, whether it's in terms of communication, fiber optics. So I think that's going to be a huge challenge. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Vinod. Vinod's with Nextra. They're building some of the largest data center networks in India. But just before this panel, I was actually talking to Vinod because I think there are going to be two parts of the world. There are going to be large cloud data centers, which Vinod's building, but I also think there's going to be another parallel world that's going to be on the edge. We at Industry.ai this week launched the world's first AI supercomputer for manufacturing, which can go on every factory floor in the world, especially at a price point for 70 million MSMEs to transform productivity. So two things, Vinod. One would be good to get your perspective on how the world's going to pan out of cloud versus edge, number one. And number two, all the challenges or bottlenecks that Nir was talking about, whether it's in terms of cooling, capital, technology, skilled labor, would be good to get your perspective.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. I represent Nextra. It's a subsidiary of Airtel. We are in this business of building infrastructure for data centers. So that's our bread and butter from Nextra point. So we've been doing this from last 20 years. We're seeing the evolution from a normal server room racks to small enterprise customers to now hyperscalers. Now we got the expert also Narendra here. We got now the new elephant in the room called the AI requirement of data center. So much is the demand now which is coming through to build large infrastructure for data center that Nextra has decided to carve out a separate vertical called AI DC on that. So that's the vertical which I represent. We are here to develop large-scale gigawatt kind of campuses to that to cater to the fast requirements of some of our customers to grow, primarily in the Indian subcontinent areas here on that. Yeah, they rightly said that the challenges are there. Power is the challenge, land is a challenge, and getting the right kind of skill set still remains a challenge. But we come from 20 years of experience, so we are understood the ways to overcome this on that. So being one of the pioneers in the homegrown industry in the data center here, so we've been doing that. Few of the challenges have been pushing us to go beyond certain areas, to look at new areas to build data centers. Some of them very close to the coastal area so that it can also accommodate cable landing stations for us. So that takes care of a lot of data requirements. Plus we are also putting sites which are close to national grids now. There were places where we used to source voltage at 33 kV, and now we are looking at 700 kV volts and all. So this is the thoughts which has now evolved and all, and it requires a separate thought process, and obviously the large amount of capital is required to get into that. So we are in this, and we are well prepared. The demand obviously is quite high. The expansions of Nextra is quite aggressive also. And we got something going on in the south. We will start something in the west going forward on that. So to your second question of how do you do the power and sustainability portion of it? Obviously, most of the power we are going to source from renewable energy. That's the key strength in the Indian regions here. Luckily for some of the good policies which have been put across a few decades back by the government, we have got plenty of renewable energy generators here. The government is pushing for upgrading the infrastructure to evacuate this energy also. So once we are at this high voltage, we are also connected to the central grid, so makes it very, very reliable for us. So we are aiming to be what we said, net zero by 2030, 32, something is what. And there is a big pool of renewable energy for us to tap into that. We are at present, we have contracted close to 400 odd megawatt of renewable energy. So no longer we are looking at just 50% to be sourced for energy. That percentage is going almost close to almost 100% now. This is how the whole sustainability portion of data center. And India and Nextra are well positioned to tap into this. I think that's the interest level in trying to do a green data center evolves for us on that. The other challenge which is been told about, how do you do the skill set? Yeah, skill set is a challenge. Probably it requires a lot of debate on that. It's something which needs to be handled both at the fundamental level, at the schooling level, and at the university level, and right at the immediate level of training the existing engineers to adapt. So by the time the next generation come in, we probably would have missed the bus. So there are 3-4 approaches we are looking at how we can build an immediate kind of skill upgradation to make them suitable to develop the data center on that. So this is some of the things which we are doing, and I think we are, as an extra, very, very well positioned to meet the demands of whatever the customer looking at it. Thank
No,
you.
thanks for that, Varun. I think one of the things that came out of that session in Abu Dhabi was the fact that the world that's going to win the AI arms war is the country that has the cheapest energy. And I really do believe that in India, we have an incredible opportunity. I come from a renewable space. My first solar farm 8 years ago, my revenue was 18 rupees a kilowatt hour. Today we get 2 rupees 20, 2 rupees 30. My first wind farm was 8 rupees 50. Today we are in 2 rupees again. So I think we have an incredible opportunity in India to really, win this AI arms war because the cost of producing energy is quite cheap. So Narendra, first of all, welcome. Narendra is the MD of Rack Bank and Neve Cloud. Narendra, you've heard all the challenges on terms of the cloud. It would be good to get your perspective in terms of, one, cost of compute in India. How do you really, make it affordable for everybody? And two is, how do you ensure adoption across the country?
Thank you. So I'm a first founder, Neve Cloud and RackBank, first generation entrepreneur, technology guy trying to solve the infrastructure challenge which we are facing. And it is start that AI adoption is growing super fast, but the infrastructure is not taking off that speed. So how to solve that? That's the biggest problem. The bottleneck is supply chain, what I believe, and that's what the US and every market is facing. Energy is another biggest challenge which we have. Neve Cloud decided, first RackBank I'll talk about, that long back 2013 I started from Indore, which is tier 2 city in the country. Center of the country, low latency, low seismic zone, unilateral latency across India. If you place Indore in center, so you'll get that advantage, and low seismic zone, and the power is cheap. And that's what motivated me to build another data center in Raipur, which is scalable up to gigawatt. But we are afraid to talk big numbers. It required demand as well. Now demand is flowing, the market is very easy. Fast forward 12, 13 years in the industry. We realized that data center is no more real estate business. It's more than that. That you need managed service. You need customers demanding the GPUs. And running operating GPU is very difficult. It's not that easy. And the customer want you to buy the GPUs and put it and operate it for them. They want to transfer. So it's no more real estate. It's a combination of 4 or 5 industry, which is one is energy, second is the data center supply chain, third is the chips, fourth is the technology, and fifth is legal, which is DPDP, which is coming up. If you have this 5 capability, then only think about building a cloud in the country. Fast forward, seeing those challenges, that how we can make and serve billion users and more than billion users from India. Look at the perspective, what India has. The good thing is we have a lot of sun. We can take the advantage, less than 30 milliseconds from Andhra, you can connect entire Southeast Asia. From Mumbai, Maharashtra side, you can connect within 30 milliseconds, half of the MENA. So what it means that more than half of the world's population, you can connect less than 30 milliseconds from India. And you have billion users. So and the government has come up with a good, fantastic policy which is attracting every day. So every day is one email, we want to invest in data center. The another email that we want to do than that. So this is a good time for the country. Cloud part, we started last week, we launched India's first orbital based data center in space. The objective of this, you have free cooling, free power, and you are solving the biggest challenge, which is unconnected, like connecting people, places, and things. from the orbit. And the latency will be, you are placing in, like we are placing on 350 kilometers away from Earth, which is, we partner with Agnikul, which is a space tech company, and the space ecosystem has evolved in the country from last 7 years. And the government has given a lot of open up the space for everyone, for the private player. The first mission we are sending before end of this year, and we believe that this is for critical workload, which can protect the borders, unmanned vehicles, and all those things. So we started exploring beyond Earth, and that's what it is needed. And we can lead as India because the ecosystem, today look at the cost of building data center in India is $4, $5, $6 million per megawatt versus $12 million in US, in Singapore and Dubai. Any market you go, you get a cost of $12 million. Why? Because the 80 to 90% product which required in supply chain is manufactured in India. And we have to strengthen that. As government announced the 200 billion, I believe this is only for data center infrastructure, not for chips. So chips cost is on top of it. It's like 5x or 10x. It depends on what chips you are using. So opportunity is huge. It's a $1 trillion opportunity for the country. Thank you.
Thanks, Narendra. I met Narendra about 2021 at the JW Marriott Hotel in Mumbai. And that time he was still start putting together this whole strategy. And I was thinking to myself in 2021, what's going to happen about data centers. And now he's talking about data centers in space. So it's good to see the kind of progress that's happening. Before I go, I have lots of questions to ask, but any questions from the audience that they want to ask? Otherwise, I can go ahead. Go ahead.
Sir, I am Harshvardhan, basically from EdTech industry. But before that, I was working as research fellow in CSIR CP. So my question to Mr. Shah is, we have seen hydrogen fuel cell being used at experimental level in railways and buses, but it has not been implemented at a large scale, neither in India nor abroad. So what are the bottlenecks that are coming in its implementation? Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I have there are many colleagues at Berkeley Lab. Actually, they have been collaborating with the India's National Hydrogen Mission. So I think, and thanks for the question. When you come to fuel cells, I think there are a few bottlenecks. Some of them have to do with also just even having the hydrogen infrastructure in the country, right? So I'm not necessarily the right person to address like all of these issues in terms of why hydrogen fuel cells have not taken off. But I do think that some of these things are still, kind of an R&D challenge, and I think many of these governments are looking at hydrogen to see whether or not you can actually, eventually do the R&D to deploy it, and there is collaboration going on. So, stay tuned. I think obviously India is also doing a lot on that, and other countries are also doing that. So,
I can add to this that the bottleneck as an operator is the cost should not be higher than what we are getting today from the grid. Innovation should lower down the cost, then the grid, then adoption will happen rapidly. So that's what we think, and that's why I believe the adoption is not happening, because people don't want to pay premium for that.
And I think India can take the lead in that, in terms of cost adoption and price points. The supercomputer for manufacturing, we're saying 6.5 lakhs. So I think that's the kind of speed at which we're going to change the way things are going. So Twinder, I want to pull you in. And the ultimate question that everybody's asking, impact on jobs, right? At the ASEAN, how are you thinking about it? Because huge concern for governments. Is AI going to replace jobs? Is it going to enhance jobs? So it'd be good to get your perspective, and what you're going to say out here is going to drive policy all over the world.
So I'm also going to say it perspectively from also how data is being collected already on impact on jobs. And actually I've taken this from the studies that actually were done by Anthropic. It's a massive study on AI, jobs, and security. And one thing is clear. I think right now, while there's quite a major hype on AI, but when you actually study the impact that it has globally, and even in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN, it's really impacting certain segment of the economy. I think the biggest impact is actually more on white-collar jobs rather than blue-collar jobs, okay? And it's true, because a lot of it, I think even in the white-collar jobs, a lot of it is got to do with collaborative augmentation rather than full automation and handing over to the AI to do everything. So I think that's at this stage where we are in terms of the technologies on AI that we have and how we're deploying them. Of course, when you are watching Elon Musk and you watch all these technologies and what's to come in 2-3 years' time, they are saying, now this is going to move from collaboration to totally replacing the human factor. In fact, the takeover part is, I think that's what scares most societies. And I must tell you, this is now becoming front and center of conversations in government, in policymakers. I'm actually quite certain that the governments are not going to hand over this ability of replacements of all important jobs at the high echelons of society to the machine. You know, that I can assure you is not going to happen. There will be a lot of effort and conversations going on, and it's happening in closed doors, where policy will have to come in to determine what cannot happen, you know. And those barometers are going to be there, and I think that's where you see this impact event. I mean, you saw the largest conglomerate of decision makers from the private sector sitting with governments in this one location. You can see that momentum is there. There will have to be an ability for us to differentiate and also collaborate with what the change is going to come. And otherwise, I think you're going to see societies breaking up. The contract of governments with people is going to break up. People won't have jobs, right? And if we are saying that the impact is not so much on the blue collar, right? I think then a lot of the farming community is probably sighing with relief. But I think we all know that in the cities where there are millions of people, I think this is where it's going to be quite critical for us to get this contract properly sorted out. I think in the coming years, you're going to see a lot of ethical rules, regulations set up in order to ensure that actually whatever change that we embrace coming from the latest of AI, it has to improve, not take away the quality of life. I think collaboration is going to be the name of the game, not displacement of the human, the use of people and population. And I think that is something in conversation. It's not one thing that in this room we can decide, but clearly you can see that the momentum is here for that kind of difficult conversations to take place.
No, you're right, and I like what you just said. First time I'm hearing that one. Collaboration, not displacement. Because the word I've been using is enhancement, not displacement. But I think it's going to be all of the above. So I think you're absolutely right. Dr. Karpan, would be good to get your perspective, especially of healthcare. You talked about telemedicine, right?
Yeah.
Technically, I guess a doctor in the United States or India could be providing advice to somebody sitting in Guyana. So how are you seeing this whole world panning out in terms of the impact on healthcare jobs?
Thank you. So I'm glad that you mentioned the collaboration of these services. Yes, indeed, we have in the telemedicine space, we have doctors from India, we have doctors from New York, the Apollo hospitals here, the Northwell, Mount Sinai group in New York. They collaborate, they are able to help us with patients. In terms of displacement of human capital or human skill set, though, I think for most of the countries like ours, we're starting out at a severe deficit. So there's not a surplus of radiologists. There's not a surplus of cancer diagnostic technicians. All of these skill sets are extremely limited. So AI actually comes in to help us with diagnosis, accuracy, speed of diagnosis, as well as the economic aspect of achieving all of those outcomes. But I tell you one thing, as a physician, that we are not too concerned for some things. In the emergency room, when there's a child who can't breathe from asthma and they're scared parents, an AI could make an accurate diagnosis. They could tell you exactly what to give, what mixtures to nebulize patients. But to comfort and reassure those parents, that's a human function. At difficult stages of life, when you're facing terminal situations, end stage of cancer, you want somebody with warmth to hold your hand. That cannot and could never be replaced by AI. So all of this, we have to bear in mind the complementary aspect of this new era that we're entering into. We rely on the AI to give us the accuracy of the diagnosis. In fact, in Guyana, we just purchased software to help us with CT scan interpretations. And the world is going towards more imaging, earlier diagnosis. And that will be used effectively to reduce cost, to have better access to specialists. There was a time when we could not even contemplate getting the top guys from Apollo to give us an opinion, or the top guys from Mount Sinai. Now they're willing and they're able to, despite the time difference. Actually, it's like 4:45 in my morning time, so if I'm a little sleepy, please forgive me. But this is how we're using it. But that human touch, I don't believe it will be replaced at all.
Glad to hear that. And also, I sometimes think that, when you go and search something on the internet, you get hallucination, you get false answers. So the last thing I want is a doctor to be searching and getting the wrong answer and suggesting the wrong medicine. Any other questions? Otherwise, go ahead.
Hello, Varun. I'm the CTO at MindDQB.ai, and I'm also the founder of AI Society. I have two questions actually. My first question is that if I am starting an AI pilot company, and to have a full economic impact, what is the biggest technical barrier that I can have while moving towards that?
Ron, do you want to take that? Or Ben, you want to go ahead?
So scale and the AI. Today, you spend $2 and you generate $1 because half of the 50% goes to the AI chip company, and this problem can be only solved through enabling indigenous AI chips, which has a better performance and the lower cost. And maybe in the big guys who's enabling the entire ecosystem, they have to reduce the cost. That's the best way, because once you build the agents, we have billion users. It's the largest market in the world. Scaling, when you do the scale, people will not pay for the value. $20 is not enough, or $10 is not enough for the subscription, but your cost is higher. So I think this will take some time. The new chips is coming, and that's where the job questions related to that. If I answer this, the job, the AI voice is fairly usage happen in the country, and we are losing. Even government is adopting AI. They are signing all the MOU with the foundation companies. What I believe that they should not remove the call center. They should come up with a policy, because AI is costing 7 rupees per call, versus call center is only 1 rupees per call. So adopting AI in this, and you're firing millions of jobs, and what happened after that? So I think in some area, government has to restrict to adopt the AI, and those are the challenge, because we have to wait for some time to figure out what these people are going to do next, upskill their thing. Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask one more?
Can I give somebody else a chance? Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah. Somebody at the back, you had your hand up. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. Go ahead.
Question to Mr. Satvinder ji, as you have taken the topic of job insecurities, say upskilling or reskilling, how can these strategies help preserve the jobs and still the human in the loop and AI, the relationship between these more human friendly.
So clearly, the efforts in most countries in the world is to really start upskilling their populations. It's already beginning. It's starting from schools, but it's going out to the workforce, because the workforce that's actually today actively under siege, with all this AI implementation. And obviously, there are countries who can afford the upskilling. The more developed countries are quite generous in terms of capacity building and coming out with programs, even empowering employers and workers to help themselves in order to do the upskilling. But I'm also worried sometimes, what are they upskilling with? What they sometimes upskill with may not be enough in 2 years' time. So I think this upskilling is going to be really a upskill task, if I may just say, for all of us. So ultimately, I think you have to continue learning. Upskilling is the word, but continuous learning to adapt is going to be the name of the game. But it's going to be harder for my generation and some of us in the panel, not all of you, and for some of us in the audience, but not for some of the younger ones and some of you who are just starting work right now. And when I talk to some of them, the younger people, they are less worried about this. They are less worried because they have already grown up in the universe where things are moving in that speed, and they are not talking about lifelong careers. They are talking about lifelong skills that they will keep adapting, onto the new change. So I think that is the name of game to survive.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, basically you told that solar revolution came in India when it was 8 rupees 30 paise kilowatt per hour, and now it's 2 rupees 20. There were little catalysts which were involved to boost the solar revolution in India. So one of the revolution was subsidy and the information to people. Basically, I am in favor that AI should come and boost up, because it won't affect the jobs. It will fit the people at the particular level where they should be, and it will increase the literacy. And are we also planning to give subsidy on various AI projects which are into development at subsidy level? Because it will play a catalyst to boost up the AI model as solar revolution came in India.
No, I think that's the government. I think the government is doing a lot already.
Yeah.
The government's already given 10,300 crores for the India AI mission for sovereign AI. They're giving GPUs available at 65 rupees per month, right? Per month, per year, per hour. So we're already the cheapest in the world. So the government has a whole slew of incentives and subsidies that they have announced, and they keep on adding more. I don't know if anybody else wants to add. So there are quite a few. Yeah.
It has not been made publicly. And
No, it's public. It's all public. It's all
This
available.
event is all about India AI. Like, if you forget our global missions, so the India AI is bring us together and build this entire ecosystem. 2 years back, Sam Altman was in India and talking about you can't do this. This is not part of cup of your tea. Now look at 12 foundation models country has launched. So this is only possible when you democratize the AI access or GPU access to the innovators like you. So that's what government has already done. You just request, you'll get the allocation of the GPU with one of the providers like us, and you can get half of the price is paid by government. By the way, it's not subsidy. They are paying full price and subsidizing the end user like you, the innovators. Thanks.
You gotta-
I'm Dr. Pradeep Sharma. I'm representing academia. My question means anybody can answer. And I'm very much thankful that all of you are contributing a lot to the industry as well as per your domain, whatever you're doing. You know that India is the youngest country right now, and more than 65% of our population is lesser than 30 or 35 years of age. And challenge is around 26 to 28% of total population is enrolling for higher education. Means the GER ratio is not increasing much. When the GER ratio is not increasing, so how you think, means anybody can answer, how you think that the AI impact will be there on these that particular part of population, and how their lives can be more, you can say, useful using AI. That's the first part. The second part is, by the advent of anthropic kind of things, do you think that there will be the impact on the reduction of cost as well as the reduction of energy uses?
So, I think when it comes to the higher education, the challenge is worldwide. So I can tell you, in dinner conversations of some of the most established people I've sat with their children who are all in higher education, you can see that the value system is changing. The focus today of some of the most influential people who can make a difference is to actually encourage their kids to become more enterprising. So I think the culture of being enterprising has to be given prioritization in order for the ability for us to adapt to what's coming. And I think if we change that and we create that and inculcate that in the universities even more and bring it up front, I think that will be the way we can overcome some of the challenges you face. At least I'm trying to address this first part.
Yeah, I think I can add up on top of it that set up AI labs, like you can get the GPUs from the, but now you don't need to learn code today. You can code through AI, right? So you can build we have billion users, billion problems. So you can solve those problems. You can make them an entrepreneur, like solve one problem at a home or a college related or a school related. And that's what we also encourage people should come, our students should come and go to industry visit. Because if they see that, they will do that. And the physical world has a lot of opportunity than the digital world. because digital world is now concentrated with, imagine how many apps you guys are using in your phone. Now this will go to one app, which is OpenAI or cloud. So the money is going to one company, and that's dangerous than anything else.
I'll just add on the energy part, right? So you heard also Narendra talk about putting data centers in space, right? So free cooling, free energy. So that's one part of it. But the other part I think that's interesting about this whole energy question is that you really, I think, with AI are able to imagine potentially. I mean, we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what we know even, right? So one of the examples I'll give you on that is, with respect to like designing better chips, right? It's like when they gave the Google DeepMind, when they gave the problem to AI to actually design better chips, they found a 30% improvement in the performance of the chips because AI was able to design better chips. And so you can think about AI designing better data centers, AI designing many different parts of the whole chain, and we don't know all of the different things that AI, even mathematical computational efficiency, these kinds of things. So there are many different domains that we haven't even touched that potentially can also have a transformative impact. And so this is a very, like I said, a very exciting time in our lives where we get to really see what the impact is going to be. Thanks.
Vern, you wanted to add something?
No, okay. Just to add to that, what we expect AI tools probably to do is to give an opportunity to grassroots. So when these tools are being applied and they learn through that, and now lot of language barriers are also being broken up. So English is no longer a barrier with all the AI tools. So you'll have some set of people who will be using that, and qualification is not a driver for that. So this is what AI will do, and we will see a trend where you will have a lot of blue-collar upskilling by themselves. No need to link it to degrees. It is the self-learn module assisted by AI tools, which will make them competent for the market. They could be either a specialist advising, or they could be entrepreneurs, or they could be a coach on that. Need not be sitting in a desk and doing something which is written there. I think this is how we feel the education system also will change with the tools being available there.
Thank you. So obviously we are the newest, particularly in consideration of this room. We're new to the AI game, but one of the things that we've been able to do in Guyana is to create a digital school at the primary level. And it started working. In fact, it's now being requested by other countries in the region, that's the Caribbean region. And part of our objective is to use this to get kids kind of hooked on technology, AI type of education. Hopefully, it can be tailored to each individual child to identify strengths, weaknesses, to strengthen the areas that are weak, whether it's literacy, numeracy, anything, and tailored to that particular child. And so that their interests can be piqued, their interests can be exploited and expanded, and ultimately they may be able to condense 8 hours of school time, maybe 3 hours, and then they can go outside and play like normal kids, the way we used to play kids, like as kids. So the digital schooling, the digital era is not necessarily to take all their time behind a computer and a desk, but to give them more time and more freedom, and to create a habit so that that will follow them, not just at the primary level, but when they get university and all the way up to adulthood.
Thanks very much. I know we are out of time right now, and I'll quickly wrap this up in about 45 seconds just so that I think it's been an incredible discussion. Boy, it's going 2 times now, so I really have to wrap it up. But I think I just want to quickly wrap up 6 or 7 key takeaways from today's discussion that we all had. The first one is the fact that I think jobs are going to be key. It's going to be collaboration, not replacement. I think the way we do a job, that's critical. I think Dr. Karpan talked about agriculture and health and medicine. I think there's going to be huge transformation. But the good thing is humans want touch. So that's good, but there'll be a lot of revolution in terms of telemedicine, etc. Nihar, you talked about cooling and bottlenecks. I think those are things that we all have to think about in our countries. How do we provide the infrastructure for cooling, etc., and something that you all can work on and let us know how to make it more efficient. I think that's great. You talked about in terms of Nextra, in terms of the talent challenges we're going to have and how we're going to have to manage all these data centers. Somebody mentioned recently that some of the big data centers in India, for 30% of the time, it's down because of the lack of talent to maintain these data centers. Narendra, you talked about supply chain. It's fantastic that India is also thinking about putting data centers in space, which is fascinating. There's going to be a big debate about more data centers versus the edge. Like I mentioned to you, there's a one school of thought that we can actually bring the big AI to every factory in India by bringing it on the edge. And the computing part that's developing is going to make that happen. And the last point I want to say is the point that you mentioned. And I think this is going to be the key takeaway for all of us, is that the speed at which technology is changing is so rapid that we are all going to require continuous learning going ahead. And it doesn't matter how old you are, but that's going to be the biggest takeaway for me, that continuous learning and upskilling is going to be the key for all of us. So with that, really thank you very much to all my panelists and to everybody, and hopefully we can all make an impact around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chopra, and all our dignitaries for such an insightful and engaging discussion. Before we conclude the discussion, I would request all our dignitaries for a photo, group photo, because Mr. Sain joined us a bit later on. Thank you once again for joining us today. Thank you.
Sure.
From which country? So that you remember that.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, or I can give you my card. Okay, yeah, WhatsApp. We just put my number in,
Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing.
I'll be here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sir? Okay. May I invite all the speakers to the front to have a seat in the front. I believe there's going to be a group photo first of the speakers before we start. Minister, Mr. Khanna, Dipali, we'll sit at the front. Please take a seat at the front. Ambassador Garcia, Your Excellency Sakeng. Oh, Dr. Parak's here. Kip. And if anybody wants to, Ibu, are you? Okay, sorry. Should we get a, I think Ibu, are you? That chair is much more comfortable for you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Oh, do you want? Sorry, I'm getting my cues from the photographer. It's not my show yet until I start. It's a photographer show. Can we please? He'd like us to stand up for a group photo first. Please come in front. Come in front. Thank you very much. It's very Asia. It's not an event unless there's a photo. So, thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. It's a real privilege for me to host and moderate this session, Trusted AI at Scale, a Global South Leadership Dialogue, here at the India AI Impact Summit. Now, this session hits squarely within the summit's Trusted AI pillar, and deliberately so. Because trust is no longer a downstream concern, it is now the condition for scale. Across governments, enterprises, and societies, we are moving past the question of whether AI will be adopted. The real question is whether it will be trusted by citizens, by institutions, and across borders. So why this session, and why did ISA host this session? The framing for today's conversation is very intentional. Much of the global AI governance debate is still shaped by frameworks emerging from the global north, the US, Europe, and China. Those frameworks are important, but they are not sufficient for the lived realities of the global south, where AI is often deployed at population scale, under real resource constraints, and in contexts where the cost of failure is not abstract, it is social, economic, and political. This is precisely the gap that AI Safety Asia was created to address. I am one of the advisors of ISA, and our mandate is straightforward, but ambitious, to bridge the global north and the global south on AI governance, not by importing templates wholesale, but by co-designing governance approaches that are interoperable, pragmatic, and grounded in local institutional strengths. And we do this through the 3 pillars: collaboration, capacity building, and policy relevant research. And what makes this session different? That brings me to expectations. The session is not about abstract principles or ideal end states. We are here to surface operational blueprints, how trust is built in practice. And we have an amazing panel that will hopefully be able to really bring that to the discussions. And how safety is governed under real constraints, how AI systems actually reach the people states that the people and states often struggle to serve. The speakers you will hear from today are not theorizing from a distance. They are governing, financing, regulating, and deploying AI in the real world, from small island states to large democracies, from welfare delivery to financial systems, from regional cooperation to enterprise risk management. So one final framing point before we begin. The goal of today's dialogue is not to position the Global South as a passive recipient of AI governance norms, and we'll hear definitely from Cambodia, from the Maldives and Indonesia and Brazil. It is to position the Global South as a co-author of those norms, contributing models of governance that are population scale, institution aware, and grounded in lived social realities. That is the through line of this session, from why trusted AI matters to who it must reach, to how it is enabled, governed, and ultimately operationalized. With that, I'm delighted to open this dialogue, and we'll begin with opening remarks that set the stakes why trusted AI is existential and not abstract. And then we'll move through discussion. I realize that time is very short, so I think one of the reasons Ed put me here is because I'm known to crack a whip a bit. So with all due respect, I know you're all very important people, but I will let you know when the time is up. So with that, I would like to invite His Excellency Professor Muhammad Kinanath, Minister of State for Homeland Security and Technology from the Maldives. Your Excellency.
Your Excellencies, distinguished heads of delegations, honorable ministers, esteemed leaders. It is both a privilege and profound responsibility to stand here before not merely a representative from Republic of Maldives, but a voice for many SIDS, small island developing states. I extend my warmest gratitude to the organizations of this forum for creating a platform where the aspiration of nations, regardless of their geographical size, can be heard alongside the strategies of those leading the frontier of innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, with the global disclosure turns to AI, it is often centered on the ambition of large economies, on a computing scale, or on a $1 trillion geopolitical competition. And while these dimensions are significant, this represents only part of the narrative. For SIDS like the Maldives, nations defined by geographical dispersion of small islands, 1,200 islands, narrow economy base, and acute exposure to climate change. AI is not a matter of competitive advantage alone. It is a matter of institutional resilience. It is a matter of sovereign capacity, and increasingly it's a matter of survival. The Maldives comprises nearly 1,200 remote islands, which is spread across 850 square kilometers. Our economy has been mainly based on tourism. Our exposure to sea level rise remains among the highest of any nation on earth. These realities do not diminish our ambitions, and they demand we adopt technologies that can deliver public services efficiently across vast distances, strengthening governance and diversify the economic foundation. The government of the Maldives, under the leadership of our current president, launched a digital transformation agenda, a comprehensive national vision to transform the Maldives into a digital-first nation within the coming 3 years. The technology vision is called Maldives 2.0. Is not a technology initiative in isolation. It's a fundamental reimagination of how the state serves its people and how the economy grows and how opportunity reaches every citizen of the Maldives. We have already begun the implementation. Maldives have good technology infrastructure. If you look at the region, we have the highest, we have one of the highest internet penetration rate in the region. We have the highest number of mobile subscribers in the region. Our population is 500,000. We have mobile subscribers 1 million. 4G coverage is 100%. 5G is 80%, one of the highest in the region. 6 subsea cables, and also fiber to each household is 100%. So maybe some of the European countries even have not even achieved these statistics. So considering the delivery of the AI enable and also considering the geography of the Maldives, AI is very important for us when it comes to the health sector, education sector, since our islands are very remote. Right? So AI intelligence also offers the Maldives a pathway to economic diversification, enabling us to develop a knowledge economy, to cultivate local technology enterprises, and to position our youth digitally. The Maldives is not approaching AI without preparation. We are building governance structures to ensure that this technology serves our people ethically. In July 2025, Maldives launched the AI Readiness Assessment Methodology report, which was developed with assistance from UNESCO. And this landmark assessment, the first of its kind in South Asia. So building on this assessment, the government is now advancing to develop a national AI master plan and also an AI Act, which is also underway. So the UNESCO Readiness Assessment has further recommended the establishment of an independent AI governance body and multi-stakeholder advisory council. So these are some of the recommendations of the report. So as I told you, Maldives is getting ready for the AI, and also since we have this Maldives 2.0 transformation vision, we are working very hard in the next 3 years to get digitalization complete in the Maldives. So Excellencies, the Maldives may be small in land, but we are vast in determination. We are a nation that has built its identity upon resilience against the tides that shape our shores. So Maldives 2.0, I have said that the vision is our commitment to that future. AI deployed responsibilities, governed ethically, is central to this vision. We do not seek to replicate the digital trajectories of large nations. We seek to chart a course that is authentically ours. On that reflect our values, address our vulnerabilities. As the world convenes to deliberate on the governance of AI, let us build on AI future, which is inclusive, intelligent, equitable, and as human as the technology is powerful. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Minister Kannanath. I'd now like to invite Dipali Khanna, as Senior VP and Head of Asia from the Rockefeller Foundation, for her remarks.
Just before I start, when we're talking about global north, global south, what struck me in this panel is the women are at the periphery, right? So anything and everything that we're going to do in this space, we'll have to get women back in the center. But I was also excited that, we have strong women who can manage these men. So anyway. Good afternoon, ministers, excellencies, colleagues, and partners. Let me begin by thanking AI Safety Asia for convening this dialogue and JP Morgan Chase for co-hosting. The fact that this conversation is happening here in this region with this leadership really matters. PM Modi in his keynote yesterday laid out the vision for Manav, building AI that is safe, ethical, and centered on people, ensuring technology serves humanity responsibly and benefits everyone, including women, right? We've just heard powerful perspectives that bring the point to life. From the Maldives, that AI is not abstract policy, it is a survival tool. I know our colleague from Togo couldn't join, but I'm sure she would have mentioned that trusted AI can make the invisible visible. So the question before us is not why AI matters or who should benefit. It is how we build it responsibly, at scale, and with legitimacy. For over 100 years, the Rockefeller Foundation has leveraged advanced technologies for betterment of society, and we believe that there are learnings from that work also to apply trusted AI. Partnership, patient capital, and institutional strength. What distinguishes success stories like Togo's Novici and India's Coven is not just technological sophistication, it is alignment. Governments willing to move decisively, private sector actors willing to collaborate, technologists willing to design for public systems, and catalytic capital willing to absorb early risk. Novici reached nearly 1 million informal workers, not in months, just in days. Coven delivered at population scale with transparency and interoperability built in. This was not mere luck. These were examples of ecosystems working together. That's partnership. For adoption, users must trust both that AI will deliver the benefits without harm. Much like early vaccine development, we need to invest in both supporting users to adopt the technology, as well as building robust evidence and systems that ensure safety. And scaling this trusted AI in the global south requires more than venture timelines. It requires risk tolerance. It requires capital that understands that building sovereign AI capacity involves experimentation, regulatory iteration, and institutional learning. Philanthropy can truly play a catalytic role here, not by replacing markets, not by dictating governance, but by de-risking what some leaders have described as the smart adopter model. The smart adopter does not wait for perfect consensus. It adapts responsibly. It pilots with guardrails. It builds local institutional muscle alongside technical capability. Catalytic capital can support regulatory sandboxes, independent safety assessments, talent pipelines, and interoperable standards so that adoption is both fast, nimble, and trusted. That's a part of patient capital. And finally, institutional strength. Digital public infrastructure has shown us something profound. Trust must be designed from day one, not retrofitted after deployment. Transparency, auditability, grievance redress, open architecture are not compliance burdens. They're adoption accelerators. If our AI systems are to scale in health, climate resilience, food systems, and financial inclusion, they must be built on institutional foundations that citizens recognize and, most importantly, trust. Businesses have a critical role here. Responsible innovation is not simply about internal governance frameworks. It is about long-term partnership with governments and societies. It is about seeing trust as a strategic infrastructure, not friction, because trusted systems scale, untrusted systems stall. The Global South is demonstrating that it does not need to choose between speed and safety. It can design both. The opportunity now is to align partnerships and patient capital behind that leadership, so that trusted AI at scale is not a slogan, it is operational. The Rockefeller Foundation stands ready to continue playing a catalytic role in that journey, because trusted AI is not simply a governance aspiration, it is a development imperative. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to both Your Excellency Minister Kananath and Diwali for the. I thought again, it's a great way to start us off for the discussion today. You're welcome to stay on the in front, sitting in front, but we'll start the discussion. Actually, I think it's set the tone for what we really want to discuss today: operationalizing trust. So everyone that you see in front brings a very specific experience, skills, and coming either from private sector or their government. So I would love to, in particular, exactly as Dipali mentioned, building trust starts from the first. It starts from the beginning. It's not an afterthought. So I'd like to start with Undersecretary of State, Your Excellency Sok-Heng. I think there's a microphone right there. I guess the question I'm going to have for everyone is, what is the single biggest obstacle to operationalizing trust in your context, based on your experience? And what is it that this room, that's filled with quite people from different sectors, what could we do about it as well? And what you've heard as well in these past couple of days as you've been here in the summit.
First, thank you, Emma, for the very good set of tones of these discussions. And I'd like to thank AI Safety Asia for having me on these panel discussions. From Cambodia perspective, I would say a short answer to that is how to get the people familiar with that AI. And that would start off with the people, user, the leader, and the regulator. And aside from that, I can talk a little bit about the Cambodia experience on that. Similar to what Excellency Minister from Maldives mentioned, Cambodia has begun to back the journey of conducting the AI readiness assessment supported by UNESCO. We completed last year in July 2025, and from that perspective, we can rely on the recommendations and starting to think about what is the strategy for Cambodia to move forward in terms of AI adoption in Cambodia. So based on the recommendation, the national AI strategy has been drafted, and currently we are in the process of finalizing the national AI strategy. At the same time, we are also drafting the national AI governance framework, keeping the national strategy in mind. And one of the key strategic priority that we have in the national strategy is people, which is the first priority of our national strategy, ranking from the user, like I mentioned earlier, user, the leader, regulator, and also government official. The second priority is the infrastructure and data. The third and the fourth one is AI adoption in government and the private sectors. The fifth strategic priority is the governance, and the last one is cooperations and the research. So based on this priority, we can see that human is still the first and the key priority action for Cambodia. Building on that, our draft AI governance framework also very much human-centric. So we believe that the governance should be aligned with the risk of AI. So context of our governance framework would be based on the risk assessment. And to understand the risk, people have to know the impact of the AI. So government has very clear intention is that we need to educate people, let people understand what is the AI tool and the implication of that. So since 2024, government introduced we call Cambodia Digital Skill Roadmap, which we outline what is the plan for the next 10 years for Cambodia in terms of human development. And that our goal is that within the next 10 years, we will have 100,000 talents who are AI ready. And in addition to that, we also introduce various programs to educate government officials. As of now, we have trained more than 10,000 of government officials, basic digital skill, and also part of it is the AI skill as well. And so, based on what we have right now, if one thing that you ask me what we can do in this room is that I would like to say is to increase the capacity of human to understand the risk of AI.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have so many questions, but I'm going to hold them for now. I'm going to move to Ambassador Garcia as a tech ambassador for Brazil. As a G20 country leading BRICS and all of these, along with Indonesia as well in G20, as I mentioned, the Global South must be architects and not observers. And I believe Brazil is at the forefront of this. Can you say a little bit more about that and what obstacles do you find?
Thank you so much for the invitation. Glad to be here. Yes, we, as you know, in Brazil, we have the presidency of G20 back in 2024, and we include AI governance as one of the priorities of the Brazilian presidency within the G20, especially AI for development, AI for reducing inequalities. Because sometimes when we discuss these issues, for example, you mentioned Global North, we need to see the reality of countries in the Global South and their priorities, their concerns, of the risk of lagging behind for lack of resources. Our countries, developing countries, they are not lacking talents, but the conditions to develop them and also benefit from the technological revolution. So this was successful. It was discussed in the Digital Economy Working Group, and we reached a consensus on this. Then next, we have the presidency of the BRICS in 2025. And for the first time, we had, create an AI task force to negotiate a document that was later adopted during the Rio Summit last year, which is the leader's statement on AI governance. It was the first time that the BRICS had a common vision on what to do in terms of AI governance globally. So this is something new that we contribute, negotiate with the other BRICS members, and we highlight, for example, the centrality of the United Nations, because what we see today is a patchwork of initiatives. Yes. Sometimes they are disconnected from each other, some overlapping as well, but when we think of the Global South, we need to be represented, otherwise it's going nowhere. For us, we need to be there, be at the table. So I think the UN can provide this legitimate, universal, representative platform. So this was stressed in the BRICS declaration specifically, and also digital sovereignty, because we don't want our countries to be forever dependent on foreign structures and foreign capabilities to harness the power of the technology. So somehow we need to enhance our own national capabilities, but in cooperation with other partners overseas. And finally, we have COP30, as you remember, last November, and we included digital technologies and climate change as a sustainability problem, because now we have been discussed in terms of data centers, energy efficient, and so sustainability is key. In a way that we are trying to send this message in terms of AI as a development-oriented strategy. And I think for the Global South, it's important that we engage in tech diplomacy. Absolutely. Because this, otherwise we will not get heard, and we need to speak up. Absolutely. And our voice be heard where it matters.
Thank you so much. So moving from one great nation in the South to another one, Ibu Ayu, Ibu Ayu is the Director of AI and Emerging Technology Ecosystems of the Ministry of Communications in Indonesia. Ibu Ayu, can you tell us a little bit more about Indonesia's national strategies? Basically, where do you find the obstacles as well? And as Ambassador Garcia has mentioned, in the ecosystem of BRICS, where does Indonesia or where is ASEAN sitting on this as well?
Okay, thank you, Ima. It's an honor for me to sit here from Ministry of Communication and Digital Affairs. I cannot say it is an obstacle, yeah. I say it's challenging ones, yeah. You know, mentioning about the challenging one, Indonesia has many things to be resolved, yeah. One is infrastructure, because you know that our penetration of broadband, especially for mobile broadband, even though it is above 95%, but it is still based on 4G coverage. You know that AI, we need more coverage for 5G. And then the penetration of fixed broadband and backbone is quite low, because you know Indonesia has hundreds of district area and 10,000s of sub-district area. Today, the penetration still 70% by sub-district area. That's why we need to push the penetration of the backbone. Regarding of the data center, today our providers of data center, we have many data center, but the GPU basis still limited. So I think we need they invest more regarding to the processing for AI. And then this is relating to the infrastructure and relating with this framework of regulation. Right now, Indonesia, we had set up the roadmap of AI, national roadmap AI, and also we are preparing the guideline ethical of AI. Talking about the national AI roadmap, we are sure that we need to have strategies that are real, that not just theoretically, because you know when we execute our vision in national roadmap, we have four strategic direction. One is governance collaborative, and the second is encouraging innovation ecosystem, and the third is to strengthen capabilities and capacities, including infrastructure, and the last is mitigating risk. You know that this national roadmap is important for us because we need clarity for five years ahead regarding to the issue that come from AI. Regarding to the ethical AI guideline, we set up the rule and clarity of responsibility of AI actors, and also we preparing the instrument for monitoring and evaluation, because you know ethic, not just ethic, we have to monitor it one. And the last is we have to put the safeguard for the people, how they're using and develop AI. That's the main thing that we preparing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Ayu. I think it's been mentioned already, and I'm glad Ambassador Garcia mentioned it, and of course in his address, Minister Kinanath mentioned, and I'm going to turn to Dr. Parakana. You did mention something about in our sorry, I'm going to bring the discussion that we had in the green room. I'm calling it the green room. It's not green. About how you, as a private company, utilize and how that could be beneficial for climate resilience and development in especially in vulnerable countries. So can you say a little bit about that? Dr. Parakana, of course, is the founder and CEO of AlphaGeo. Please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ina. Thank you all for being here. Well, AI as a concept evokes this notion of leapfrogging. Do you remember when we used to use that term all the time, leapfrogging? And of course, it applied very appropriately to mobile telephony, to fintech, to renewable energy, solar panels. So, you know, faster, better, cheaper. And inherent in that concept, which is very important now when we talk about AI, is the notion of second mover advantage, right? That's what leapfrogging was fundamentally about, having second mover advantage. Now, why that's relevant right now is because, of course, developed countries in particular, particularly the United States and others, have invested enormous amounts of capital in the CapEx requirements of AI. You know, some significant percentage of US GDP growth, for example, is attributable right now to that AI CapEx-related infrastructure investment. But that is not something, of course, that nations of the global south, so to speak, developing countries, can afford. And so the question becomes, is there an advantage to late development when it comes to AI that can save developing countries of the south a lot of money while still enjoying the fruits of that innovation? So it's important to not, especially in the context where you're making trade-offs between electricity, food, water, the basics for your population, while, of course, there's now this almost emotional and hype and pressure to invest, you know, to clear land, to build data centers, to divert energy. We have to ask ourselves, is that the right way to allocate capital, or should one be taking advantage of cloud computing, edge computing, sovereign cloud solutions that can generate the same or better output, bang for your buck, with less CapEx expenditure? And that's the moment that we're at. And it's important to remind that we're having this conversation in India. And one of the virtues of India hosting this event is precisely that India's rise as an AI superpower, you know, breaks the narrative out of this conventional wisdom that it's a two-horse race between the US and China, and that you're doomed in some way to choose between your data being, you know, hoovered up by one or the other player. Instead, what India is offering, at least more than in theory, is rapid diffusion of the latest technologies, right? Cloud-based models and solutions through the tools of digital public infrastructure, DPI, which has been, you know, for one of the benefits of this event now over the course of the week, because people have learned this all-important acronym, DPI, which I've adhered to or believed in, been a supporter of for quite some time, because it does hold the promise for neutrality, for a menu of options, for being delivered in a way that protects sovereignty of data, but in a very affordable way. And India has done it, been a pioneer of it, obviously, domestically, with Aadhaar and so forth. And for those, if it hasn't been disclosed enough this week, you know, more than 50 countries are building payment systems and identity systems on that stack. So that's a great example of DPI. So think of AI in that mold of second mover advantage, leapfrogging, following the mold of cloud-based sort of solutions that can be low cost. Now, let me just quickly talk about two areas where there are huge gaps in public sector access to data or ownership of or simply knowledge of solutions that AI, and particularly the AI that the way in which we apply data science is to geospatial data. And these are also two areas that are of critical, fundamental, if not existential importance to developing countries. One is sustainable urbanization, and the second is climate adaptation. Anywhere you go in the world, actually rich or poor countries, if you survey the average person on the street and ask them what is the biggest problem plaguing your society, 9 out of 10 people that I speak to in dozens of countries around the world is affordable housing. Right? Just sustain urbanization that is so organic, so rapid, so unplanned, accelerating around the world. But now, finally, governments have the tools, again, geospatial tools, mapping tools, understanding which districts, which settlements are expanding and why, where are people coming from, what kinds of housing need to be built where, right? Governments have always been fighting backwards, or if not given up, quite frankly, on grappling with these issues. But now we have foresight, AI-powered geospatial tools that can look decades ahead and say, this has been your time series urban expansion, this is how you map it out, this is where you should be building what and when. And so bringing together demographics, bringing together infrastructure, bringing together migration, fiscal spending, and directed targeting in a way, that is a great use case for AI that almost the entire developing world could use and has barely begun to use, and is very cost effective, right? So that's number one. The second, equally if not more important, is climate adaptation. Climate risk is both acute and chronic. We're talking about monsoons, floods, fires that are becoming more frequent and devastating. And of course, complex climate modeling is not the kind of thing that any individual country can or should finance. We have global climate models that are AI powered, that are developed with the world's best institutions, that are publicly financed, that are now available to be downscaled for your country. And this is something that, again, in especially developing countries, especially countries of the South that are most affected by climate dislocation, by climate risk, can and should take advantage of. But again, to be clear, they have barely begun to do so yet.
Okay.
So targeting infrastructure investments, targeting your infrastructure to adapt to climate risk. Where do you need to build seawalls, flood barriers, flood control measures? Irrigation systems for drought, all of that, we are, again, just like urbanization, are years and years and years behind, and there's almost no country on this panel, almost no country in the world, even wealthy countries, that are ahead of the curve on this.
Yep.
The entire planet is behind, as we know from COP summits, but it is countries of the South that are going to be the worst affected on the fastest timeline.
Yeah.
If you're not using the tools that are available right now, AI-powered climate modeling, adaptation scoring, in order to plan your national infrastructure and then putting together the public-private partnerships to get it done, you're behind. So this is about global public goods,
Yes.
right? Affordable housing, a manageable urbanization at a global scale, climate adaptation for people everywhere, but it has to be delivered locally.
Yes.
And that's why it's incumbent on each nation represented here, each nation of the Global South, to really, harness and take advantage of these tools.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parag. Again, lots of questions in my head. Kip Wainscott, Executive Director of Global AI Policy from JP Morgan Chase, one of our biggest supporters as well. Thank you so much for supporting us for this event. You are not here just because of that, I can assure you. But I'd love to hear what what you have to say in particular the question that I brought forward earlier about the obstacles, in particular in where you see it. But again, financial services, model risk management, and all of that in the safety architecture of AI.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. A lot to unpack there. This is a great panel, by the way. So many esteemed panelists. I really feel privileged to share the microphone with all of you. It's interesting thinking about these things from the vantage of JP Morgan Chase, because we're really kind of interrogating the questions from sort of three different perspectives, right? One, as one of the world's largest financial houses that's deeply invested in artificial intelligence, we have an acute interest in unlocking the value of this technology and seeing the growth potential of this technology. But there's a simple truth that we recognize, and that is that AI is only valuable if it is deployed, and deployment depends on trust. And so really building out, we have an interest in this sort of multi-stakeholder dialogue about what that trust model that is going to unlock diffusion, not just across enterprises, but in the public sphere across the Global South, and really putting this technology into organizations that are impacting people's real lives. The second perspective from which we're looking at all of this is as a deployer of the technology ourselves. We are one of the world's largest deployers of AI. And what's interesting, we're also one of the most regulated industries in the financial sector, and yet financial services have been the earliest adopters of AI. We've been using artificial intelligence through this sort of evolutionary ramp of really more than a decade to combat fraud, to protect consumers, to create just more efficient personalization of financial services. And I think one reason why you see financial services companies so ready and eager to adopt is because we have that existing trust architecture. Trust isn't, it's not just like a feature of financial services, it's the core business model. And so, we have these, you mentioned, model risk management. We have these rigorous practices of evaluating models, of documenting governance and oversight, of really ensuring that there's ongoing monitoring across all of our technology deployments in a way that just lends itself to what I would call a comfort in sort of building the trust ecosystem for responsible deployment. And then sort of the third prism that we look at this issue from is as a purchaser of these technologies and like kind of almost a procurement lens here. We spend $20 billion annually on our technology budget. That puts us in this really sizable position in the innovation ecosystem of startups and scale-ups that they want to sell their products. They're building innovative new artificial intelligence applications with the hope of selling it to JP Morgan Chase. And we see a real innovation inefficiency right now in the fact that there isn't a shared sort of set of expectations for trust, for what these products should be benchmarked against in order for us to ingest them, in a way that we have the confidence is going to serve our customers well, is going to reflect our responsibilities, our duty of care as a regulated industry. And so it speaks to, I think one, the need to bring these diverse perspectives to this conversation around governance, so that we can really kind of get past the sort of compartmentalization of like AI safety as sort of a siloed conversation, and accelerated AI adoption as a different conversation. This is the same conversation. And what we really need to I think the purpose of both of those conversations is to really align on this trust model that is going to ensure that we can deploy these technologies in a very broad and impactful way across the economy.
I'm going to put you on the spot while you have your microphone.
Okay.
A little bit. You've been here throughout the week, and you've heard the panelists just now speak. From what you've been hearing throughout the week, how optimistic are you in terms of, I think His Excellency Sok-Heng mentioned about collaboration. How confident are you in building these collaborations to build trust in AI? Just from the conversations that you've had this week.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I think just the fact that we're here in New Delhi and having this summit in this environment, this is a much bigger summit. I think it's a more inclusive cross-section of voices. And so I think that reflects that this conversation is getting bigger, that we've moved past this focus on technical capabilities, which is kind of where we have been, to now I think capability has really been almost commoditized, and legitimacy has not. And we're in this phase now where we really need to establish the legitimacy of these technologies, and that they are fit for purpose, that they can be trusted and deployed across these different societal sectors. And so I think that I am optimistic. It requires intention. And I'm seeing the intentionality, I think, around the curation of these conversations. I think there's a lot to carry forward here. I also, some of you may have seen, we're very near the end of this summit, and I think before we were even halfway through, excuse me, I'm getting, I'm like running on fumes at this point, but we were more than halfway through the week, and people were already writing up like the assessment of what the themes were, what the takeaways were, and people were saying, this summit is no longer about responsibility or safety or, and that isn't my perception of these conversations. It really is that we're just talking about them in a different way. We're talking about them in how they are going to impact real lives, how we can take this technology into the economy in real valuable ways. And in order to do that, we have to include that sort of trust dimension.
Okay, thank you so much. We have 8 minutes left, and I've been told that we have to finish on time, but I really want to get this question in and hopefully be able to hear from everyone. So Ambassador Garcia and Your Excellency Sok-Heng and Ibu Ayu, what are you taking away? What are you taking home from this panel, first of all, or from the week that you've been here, reflecting on what Kip just mentioned?
Yes, thank you. First, I think India was very successful bringing this summit to the Global South for the very first time, because this was the Bletchley process that began in the UK 2023, have Seoul, Paris. So this, what we has been discussing here, it's something that is more inclusive, and some new concerns were added to the agenda, sustainability, not that it was not discussed before, but with this perspective coming from the Global South, which is important. So I would conclude with 3 recommendations, because we need to be practical. I think mostly we agree on high-level principles in terms of AI governance, but when we think of countries lacking resources or having other competing priorities, so they need to decide what to do and prioritize in many cases. So I think they should start small and have a few small-scale, quick impact projects so that they can build on proven success. Yes. So let's say focus on some, let's say, education, healthcare, agriculture, then focus on some specific projects and then build on to reach the next level. The second is that we need to seek, they need to seek international partners. Sometimes it's useful and needed to enhance national capabilities. Mm-hmm. It's difficult for a single country alone to do this as investing in infrastructure and do something that is expensive. So seek international cooperation. And third, when I said it before, engage in these discussions at the international level.
Absolutely.
Engage in tech diplomacy.
Yes.
And send more people to discuss where they think it's important, including the United Nations.
Thank you so much. Mr. Stokeng.
Yeah, thank you. Having seen the time in mind,
yes.
I'll just go very quickly on the last sentence, is that coming to this summit is, I agree with our panelists that it's very inclusive, and we can see perspective from all the stakeholders, from the government, the industry, academia, and even the startup. So learning from this, I have just one wish, is that we have to be honest with each other,
yes.
The industry, the government, and bear in mind that we are here to protect people for the people. So
absolutely.
Whatever we do, we need to think about people first. With that, please consider that when we think of governance frameworks, the regulation or the law that the government might put should be the mechanism to promote the innovation. It's not an obstacle for the innovations. So in order to do that, we need to build trust also, and that's we need to be honest with each other.
Thank you. Ibu Ayu, quickly.
Thank you. Actually, I'm very impressed with the spirit of Prime Minister Modi yesterday. I think every country has the same spirit regarding to the AI. So what the 3 points that I taking from this summit, one is collaboration indeed, and then inclusive, because if we consider about inclusive, we need intention from government, from industry, from the people. And then the last is investment, because investment, you need, you know that AI need more and more investment. This is a collaboration come, but the issue will come is how we define the sovereign, because sovereign is based on the needs of the countries. How we define, is it equal or not? It's still under question of me also.
Thank you so much, Ibu Ayu. Dr. Parag, I'm going to have you bring it home in 1 minute. What you're taking home, in particular in your conversations with some of the different governments here.
Well, the first thing is I actually want to echo Kip's point, is that we're at an inflection point where we can't. We've been in phase 1. Let's say there was a lot of harping about trust. Can we trust? Can we not trust? And I think it's a good thing that pressure was there. But now that pressure to have transparency in models has delivered to some degree, and that it's been done in a way where public and private have not been on opposite sides of the discussion, but have really partnered. So I think we're really beyond that, and now we can move from models and theory into action and application, and that's the part of the stack that we want to be on. The infrastructure build-out is there; it's being provided. The apps are being developed; they're being deployed. So I have seen a little bit of, but would want to see a lot more in subsequent editions of this, especially as this summit migrates around the world now and remains perhaps in the hands of developing countries on the application side as much as possible, and that we think not just about very specific verticals as we have been here and elsewhere, sort of healthcare, education, I've emphasized climate and others, but probably something more societal and around resilience. Resilience is a term that comes up a lot but doesn't really get quantified enough, and if we can push for that, that's going to help us to establish performance benchmarks, not just of models but in applications. And that's really what I think everyone wants to see, to make sure that AI doesn't become something of not just a financial bubble, but something almost of a policy bubble as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ibu Ayu, Ambassador Garcia, Mr. Sokeng, Kip, Minister Kinanath, Dr. Parag, and Dipali for joining us this afternoon. I'm so sorry it was cut short. I have so many questions in my head. I'm just going to ask you personally later. Thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. There's a time pressure that is making me sweat a little bit, but I know these conversations will continue. I think the conversation, what I'm hearing across the panel is that this is a first step of many steps that we have to do, and that we've already, and it has to move beyond that. It has to move beyond just the conversations that we're having here, how we follow up, how we make it applicable, how we have conversations with other governments, other private sector stakeholders, for us to make trusted AI at scale something that we are very confident with. Thank you so much, everyone. A round of applause for the panelists. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to my team at AI Safety Asia for putting together such a brilliant panel. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Apparently now there's, for all of them? Okay. From the AI Impact Summit, there's some souvenirs for all of the panelists. Ambassador Garcia, I'm sorry. There's a little token of appreciation from the AI Impact Summit. Thank you, Ambassador Garcia.
The session has ended. All the speakers are requested to exit the room.